Now, Alan, you chose Zoom for worship. So why did you choose Zoom?
Well, I have to be honest, at first we didn't choose Zoom. I started using one of the telephone conferencing systems, but the first weekend we tried it was Mothering Sunday, and everyone, I think, was trying to phone home, and we just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to get everyone to connect. So I then said, let's go with Zoom. The two priorities for me one was a setup which allowed us to have live worship rather than something which we recorded and then broadcast. But also it needed to be able to have access by phone as well as computer. Now with a Zoom paid account, you were able to get a phone access, and about half of our people connect over phones and half connect using computers with the video. But I thought it was really important with Zoom that we could have a sense of it being live worship together.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had all sorts of fun and games. At first, I tried leaving the microphones on, and that's fine when you've got a dozen people in there. But the moment it starts going up, you get all kinds of feedback. And when you try and sing, it's a nightmare. So the way we set things up, I mean, it evolved fairly rapidly over the first couple of months. Initially, it was just let's get people together. We can pray together. We can read the Bible together. Maybe listen to something, and then I think the second week we put in adding some music. Now, what I do, I mean, I've got software which allows me to create a backing track, and my poor folk here at the churches, they have to put up with my singing. They get Fiona and my wife to sing as well, which is a bonus. But we lead the singing every week, and everyone's microphone's turned off, so you can sing to your heart's content at home. There's no embarrassment by the quality of your own voice. It's just you and the cat, and trying to get people involved that way, I think it's been really good. It's produced a good feel of having corporate worship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things for me. I've always found recordings of worship to lack that little extra of knowing that you're praying at the same time as everyone else.
So it's more a sense of involvement and togetherness as opposed to we're going to watch church now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it still has the great advantages of the distributed worship. So people are connecting. I've had church members connecting from Wales, from Northern Ireland, from London. We've got somebody who comes in regularly from Bakewell in Derbyshire. So we get that sense, even when we're not able to be even in the same area, we're still able to connect.
But Zoom is limited in that it is a sort of closed shop unless people get the invitation to come in.
It is, yes.
Whereas YouTube is very open. So how have you encouraged members to invite others to join you?
I mean, to get them to let people know if they think somebody would want to come along and join, to do it by personal invitation rather than by putting something out on the web and saying, although we have actually I think on each of the church websites, and in fact there is a notice there saying if you'd like to join us on Sunday, email the minister and he'll send you the link.
Yeah. And what have you really learnt about worship by moving into Zoom worship?
Okay, I'll start with a slightly tongue-in-cheek one. It can be shorter. We do half an hour for our Zoom worship because I'm conscious that if you're listening on a phone, to listen on a phone for an hour is really difficult. Okay, in church, in the building, we do our hour-long services, and this has been going on for as long as anybody can remember, unless you're in one of those traditions where it's an hour sermon plus. But just we're using a different platform, we're using a different way of worshipping. So let's find what's right for us in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
And half an hour gives us time for a couple of hymns or songs, a Bible reading, a reflection, and time for prayer. And it seems it works. It works for us, certainly. And we've now started to invite people to stay on afterwards for a chat. And by no means everyone is that, but we're getting a few staying on each week now for a chat. I think that's particularly important for those people who don't see many people during the week. But the important thing I've learned through this is that we weren't serving our housebound very well before COVID.
Right.
A number of the people who are now connecting every single week are those who weren't able to get to church on Sundays pre-COVID. They now have a link into the community. So going back to this thing that it's not just about inviting new people to join us. It's reconnecting with those who are already part of the fellowship.
Absolutely. And how do you intend to keep that going into the future when we maybe go back to normal?
Ooh. And that's the big question, isn't it? We've got two lines we're looking at, and I think obviously in the next few months we're going to be having to make a commitment one way or another. So one option would be to do a Zoom broadcast from one or more of the churches of our regular Sunday worship. So one way would be for me to take the Zoom around to whichever the church that I'm leading at, and it can then be connected to everyone. And the other possibility is that we could have a Zoom meeting at another time. Because I think one of the real blessings we've found is that it's given a stronger sense of the four churches as a pastorate, rather than just four churches meeting in different places. So I must admit, a sort of part, a large part of my thinking at the moment is that we can maintain that sense of connecting across the four churches by saying moving it to being a Sunday evening service. Now, the normal argument against a Sunday evening service is our folk are getting on a bit and they won't come out in the dark. Well, with Zoom, they don't have to.
True.
I think every week has brought a slightly different technical challenge, whether it's getting somebody to understand how to unmute themselves on the phone, or indeed whether their phone has all the right wherewithal to do that. To suddenly you discover that someone's bandwidth isn't enough, so what had previously been quite a good strong connection is now, and if that person happens to be the person who's preaching, it gets to be a little bit of, so it's not I think we have to remember that we're not professional broadcasters. We still have to deal with the rough edges, like we would do in church on Sunday. One of my churches, we joke that if everything's gone right, something's gone wrong. So it's this element of there's still an issue most weeks with something technical. It might even be something as simple as me forgetting to switch on the recording, Because the other thing that Zoom I mentioned is we can record as we're doing now on this, but that means that we've now set up a service where those who can't connect on Sunday morning can dial up a number on their phone and listen to the audio recording of the service.
Very good. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what we've learned from Zoom is actually people were a lot more able to connect using technology than they thought they were.
Yeah.
You know, a year or so ago, if you'd asked me whether my congregation, who like many are, a lot of older people who aren't really thinking of themselves as being technologically capable, would have been able to connect in over Zoom, I've paused, and think, oh, maybe. But actually, we're getting a good number connecting each week, and the feedback we're getting is that it's a really positive experience. Yeah, there are glitches. Sometimes the sound isn't as good as we'd like, but actually, just being able to continue meeting has been a lifeline for many, I think.
Okay, Alan, what about for you as a worship leader? How do you find Zoom?
Well, for me, it's another of the advantages of Zoom is because I get a screen full of people on here and I can see people react to what I'm saying, much as I would do in church on a Sunday morning. So it gives me a sense that I'm praying with and preaching to people directly.
And I suppose that helps you keep your presentation.
It helps my presentation, but actually it helps give me a sense of worship.
Yes.
Because it's always a challenge. I mean, I've done a couple of sermons to be recorded for other for YouTube presentations, and it's it's really strange and almost a little bit soulless when you're trying to preach to your computer screen. But when I can see someone on the other end, I know that there's someone that I'm talking to. I'm, I get it. It doesn't mean that I have to do, the full-on preaching from the pulpit voice, but I'm talking to people that I know.
Yeah.
And that makes it much, much more worshipful for me as the worship leader. And I hope it makes it more worshipful for the people that I'm worshiping with.